All right, ladies and gentlemen, it's time for another...
I didn't get a word! I didn't get a word!
I don't have a word either.
No.
It's time for another full throttle episode of V8 Radio. I'm your host, Kevin Oeste, joined as always by our esteemed co-host, Mr. Mike Q-Ball Clarke.
Oh, I'm disgusted with myself today. Good heavens. How did I not come up with that?
Well, it seems like it's been a while since we've done this.
It has. I mean, I focus on the trivia question. I'm like, all right, I'm good to go. I even wrote a couple of notes down. Nowhere did it say adjective.
Yeah, me too. So I'm in the same boat. I was kind of hoping I could just toss that to you and you run with it, but
yeah. Well, normally I try to be prepared for that, just in case of that situation.
Right.
Try to keep my feathers numbered just for such an occurrence, as it were.
Then we'll just have to make this a true full throttle experience for our listeners. Man. Our listeners. We got a couple now. So.
Yeah, we do have a couple.
Yes, and it's very much appreciated. So, to everybody who's taken the time to share their ears with us, we appreciate that. It's very, very kind.
It is very kind. It's kind of neat to know that people actually listen to this stuff.
Well, and what I think is neat is that the feedback we're getting, I think, is the kind of feedback we want, where it's like, hey, that was actually valuable and entertaining, and I enjoyed it, and it didn't, make me mad, and it shed some light on some things that I'm going through with my own projects. That it's nice to know other people experience the same challenges. So overall, that was a good thing.
For sure, absolutely.
So as we typically start this show off, we like to try out an automotive trivia question, something to kind of entice our friends to stay listening throughout the whole show. And as I say this, I realize that the payoff at the end really isn't that great.
What are you talking about? These are gripping questions, man.
Well, of course they are, but still. So you alluded that you have indeed prepared a trivia question.
Yes, sir.
What do you got?
Okay. And your last question, you asked about what was it? What the first year for the 8-track in a car was?
Oh yes, I remember
something like that. Well, I
remember asking.
I built on that. Yeah, I built on that, and I'm wondering if you can tell me what the last year offered, what manufacturer offered a cassette player in one of their cars.
So to reframe the question, it's what was the manufacturer?
Yeah, what manufacturer was the last to offer a cassette player in their car?
In-dash, interesting question. Could be a variety of tricky answers here because it seems to me the European cars held on to cassettes longer than American did.
Possibly.
But then I could be completely wrong on that too. So
possibly.
I know my own personal experience of seeing some Chevrolet trucks in the late single-digit 2000s with cassette players in them. But then as I try to use, logic here, I think the cassette technology might have been adhered to perhaps by a more senior level audience than, say, these young kids and their MP3s. So was it a brand that catered to that senior consumer? If so, it wouldn't have been a Cadillac because they pride themselves on leading technology. Mm-hmm. And a cassette was no longer leading technology. So it could have been a Buick. This is a good one. These are my drawn out ways of saying I have no idea.
Oh boy.
I'm going to say that it was this sucks. Okay, I'm going to just say it was Chevrolet. And you did not ask for the year, you asked for the manufacturer.
I asked for the manufacturer.
All right. I'm going to say Chevrolet.
Okay. Chevrolet it is what Kevin says.
Yep.
All right. It is in the books.
All right. Well,
what do you got for me?
This one, trivia by definition is like kind of obscure, and this one is very mainstream.
All right.
Yeah. In the nomenclature that John DeLorean chose to name the DeLorean DMC-12 car.
That's so mainstream.
What did the 12 stand for?
Oh, boy. Well, let's see here. What did the 12 stand for?
And to kind of kill some time for you, the the DeLorean, of course, was a true international vehicle. It was designed in Italy. It was built outside of Belfast, Ireland.
All right.
It was powered by a 6-cylinder that was French and Swedish in design. And sold in the U.S. For me locally at our local Oldsmobile dealership.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Oh, right on.
And it was the DMC-12. So what did the 12 mean?
Maybe 12 meant 12 different places parts were manufactured to bring it all together, for Pete's sake.
Kind of seems that way.
Yeah, it does kind of seem that way. The DMC-12. Oh, you are just a killer at this, aren't you?
Yeah, this is no harder than that cassette nonsense.
Are you kidding me? This is way harder.
No, really, it's not. And I'll tell you why it's not. Because there are people that are enthusiasts about DeLoreans. Nobody cares when the last cassette player was installed.
Yeah, it'll be consistent because no one will care after the show either about cassettes. So sorry, everybody. The 12 was the. Yeah, I'll just say it was, just for the sake of just not dragging this out, it was the 12th design. And that's it.
The man takes the WD-40 approach.
Yes, exactly.
The 40th formulation.
Yeah, so it's the 12th design.
All right.
For that car. Yeah, God. I'm sorry, DeLorean enthusiasts, if you're out there. I don't mean to insult you.
If you're out there. There's another.
Yeah.
There's the big if. Right on. All right. Well, glad we got that out of the way.
Yeah. So is everybody else.
Starting year 3 with a bang here.
Oh, God damn it. What are we doing? Oh, man. So you've had a busy week recently. You were out of town, out in California doing SEMA stuff?
Yes. Yeah. This past week was quite literally a whirlwind that had all kinds of stuff going on in every different direction. It was great. Interesting side note about this past week. Kelly and I went to Southern California for a work function on Friday, but after that, we had taken the very first during midweek official vacation days that we have taken in 14 years.
Holy cow.
Yes. It was unbelievable. I mean, we went to Disney, for crying out loud.
Oh my gosh.
Yes, on a Monday.
You are on vacation then.
Right. Did everything we could to detach and be on vacation because we have not
good
done
for you
that,
guys.
since we started this business. Don't get me wrong, there's been travel and there's been things that were like, vacation for other people at car events and things like that. But we're always working somehow, shooting it or whatever. And this time we hung it up after our Friday commitment and said, we're on vacation. And the great thing was our esteemed crew at the V8 Speed and Resto Shop took care of business and everything went swimmingly. So
sweet. That's awesome.
Maybe we can do it again in another 14 years.
Maybe so. You don't want to rush these things, though.
No. They did great. So we're very thankful for that. But yeah, the main purpose of the trip was our friends at SEMA had called. A lot of people recognize the SEMA organization for their show, for the big SEMA trade show in Vegas in November. And that is certainly their biggest highest profile event, but they have other events throughout the year because they are a trade organization, and a trade organization does things to help whatever industry that they're involved with. And in this case, Specialty Equipment Market Association originally was speed equipment, and then it evolved to specialty, meaning aftermarket stuff, accessories, and it spans everything from tires to refinishing and appearance products and performance and the whole deal. So recognizing that they have members of varying backgrounds and experiences, each year they have a SEMA Hall of Fame banquet where they induct some of the members into the Hall of Fame. And they hired me and Jessi Combs from Extreme 4x4 fame, and also being the fastest woman on four wheels, world record holder, and other
Holy
stuff.
Cow.
Yeah.
Right on.
Hired us to host the Hall of Fame banquet, which was just, it's one of those things that doesn't even seem like it happened. It was a tremendous honor for us and for me personally to be able to kind of be the face and voice of this industry that we work in. That means they trust you enough to be able to do that, which I don't take lightly.
Sure.
And then with the Hall of Fame aspect, to induct some people that I've looked up to forever. Ed Pink, the world famous engine builder, was the most probably famous guy from a regular enthusiast standpoint. Donnie Ederle and Chris Thompson were the other two gentlemen who are huge pillars of the industry. They're not quite as public as an Ed Pink, but they have done things over a multi-decade career to improve the aftermarket business and the way it's done. And they're all just great guys. And they all had really, really excellent speeches to make, sharing what I distill down to be a fairly simple formula for success. And I'm not saying it's easy, but I'm saying it's simple, meaning all of them echo the same thoughts. Find something you like doing, bring it every day and do it. Be respectful to those you work with, and don't ever give up, and you'll be successful. So,
wow, that is easy.
It's simple, not easy.
Simple. I stand corrected. Simple, not easy.
Right. Hard to do, but a simple concept. And I think those types of inspirational speeches and stories from people who have achieved levels of success that came from regular guy beginnings need to be told, because I think there's a lot of people out there who don't identify with people that are successful, and they wonder how they got there, or worse, they just assume that they could never do it themselves. They just right. You own some giant company, or you're a big hero, and I'm not. And these guys demonstrated that you can do it if you put your mind to it. So,
well, good.
It was really cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
And there was about 400 people there, I think, all told, and it was a great experience. It was a little different for me because it was very scripted, and
yeah.
Yeah, the only time I read scripts is when you and I do the show.
Yeah, scripts, yeah.
Hold on, let me turn the page.
Yeah.
Right.
There we go.
And I'm not saying there's anything, wrong with that. It's just different for me, and especially working with Jessi. Jessi's great, and she brings a lot of experience, so she's the real deal, which is crucial when you're in a room like that. If they just hired somebody to stand there at the podium to read stuff, the whole room would be like, get the gong and the hook, because this guy's full of crap. But the script structure is such that, she reads, I read, she reads, I read, and then we bring up CEO of SEMA, Chris Kirsting, and he does his speech, and then, we come back, kind of thing. And normally, again, I'm good with bullet points. If I know what the message is, I can usually just deliver that straight. However, the script, every word was very carefully chosen for a reason.
Really? Oh, boy.
And that was the only thing that was kind of stressful, is it's like, I want to make sure that I don't color that message by substituting a word or a phrase or something.
Right.
So I just had to make sure that, I had my contacts in and I could, fortunately we had prompters so I could see the prompter.
Good.
And then make it appear like I wasn't reading one, which some people said, they had some pretty positive feedback about that. We pulled it off. So it was great. It was a great experience.
Nice, man. Real nice.
It was fun.
Yeah, I like seeing you get that kind of recognition from SEMA, and know that you can do the job.
I definitely think it's opportunity over recognition, and part of it is that by doing what I do, the industry is very diverse. So you have people like Ed Pink that build engines. You have people that create products and they race and they sell stuff or whatever. And kind of what I do is tell stories and be able to talk a little bit. And it's nice to have them say, "Hey, we need what you have to offer. Can you bring it?" And then I can kind of give back in whatever silly way I do and fit into this whole thing. And that, again, was a tremendous honor to have that opportunity. And it also stems from some personal relationships that I've had with the members at SEMA. We've worked together in various capacities. Right. Some of us were employed together, and we used to work, in the same building. But then also, I think they recognize more so than I do that our business, for example, the V8 Speed and Resto Shop and V8 TV, we're kind of a microcosm for what the trade industry organization does. What I mean by that is we buy parts. We're dealers for parts. We sell parts to customers. We install parts. Plus we have the media side where we share parts and we evaluate parts. So really the only thing we don't do is manufacture, but we do everything else that you can do in the automotive industry.
Yeah, and that makes total sense.
And Peter McGillivray, who's the guy in charge of the SEMA show, last year when I was doing the SEMA Central interviews, he pointed that out. He's like, you and Kelly are totally organic to what this trade industry is. So again, there's no faking this. This is just what we do. So the side benefit is we know a lot of people in this industry. We're meeting new ones every day, but these are through business relationships and not just, again, a meet and greet and here, read this card and go home.
Right. It helps. I think your broadcast background helps quite a bit. You're really able to string sentences together smoothly, almost as if they have been rehearsed.
Almost.
Almost. That's meant as a compliment.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
Here, let me slap the other side of your head.
Yeah.
No, but I'm sure that helps, and having years of experience doing that and putting all the video content you put out really helps hone your craft, and you're a great person to be on stage doing those kinds of things, and it's good that they recognize that. I mean, it's the old adage is true: the harder you work, the luckier you get.
Right.
So,
yeah. Right.
Yeah.
That's a great one. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate it.
So good for you, man.
That's very nice of you to say.
Yeah. Right on.
And I think again, we're very fortunate. I'm very fortunate. Our company's fortunate that we have a solid team that shows up and brings it every day. And
totally.
This will be my 23rd SEMA show, I think, this year.
Woo!
And I've been covering the SEMA event for almost that whole time. So I certainly know what they do, and we're on the same page, and they don't have to worry about me misrepresenting. I'm a node quantity, I guess.
Yeah.
So
it's funny. My boss at my job has said this phrase for years, and it holds true with what you do. And as far as the good luck you've had with SEMA, you interview every day for future opportunities. So, and you're the epitome of that.
Yeah.
So that's, it holds true. I mean, every day you got to bring it, You got to know, you keep striving for bigger and better things. If you want that, show you can do it.
Yeah. No, and I believe that to be true too, because you never know what this conversation could turn into.
Exactly.
For you or for the person you're talking to.
Mm-hmm.
And it's also important to, we know, Kelly and I know, as small business owners, that we have to conduct ourselves in a manner that is nothing but professional, because the last thing we want to do is alienate a customer with a political viewpoint or a public, social media post or something. So by keeping kind of that I don't even want to call it a clean slate, but really just not getting involved with that stuff.
Oh yeah.
It makes you more attractive to work with.
Yeah.
From SEMA's standpoint, because they have to walk the line too. They can't, have somebody who's going to lean a certain direction, because it's about the association, about the industry. It's not about you,
Right. Yeah. They don't need a polarizing individual up there.
Right.
For sure. Yeah. Oh, for sure.
So, so the event went very well, and I was very happy, and it was energizing. It was a lot of fun. It was cool.
Nice.
And afterwards, I had the pleasure, Kelly and I went out to lunch with Dave McClelland and the lovely Louise, his wife.
Right.
And Dave has been the host for the SEMA organization for 40 years.
Is that right?
He was the guy up until a couple of years ago. And Dave and I have known each other for probably 20 years. I met him just probably at the SEMA show, as a matter of fact. But we had we worked professionally together when I was producing Hot Rod Magazine TV, and he was the host. He was also doing NHRA drag racing stuff. And
the voice of the NHRA.
Oh, yeah. And not only that, even to this day, you can call like the top 10 automotive aftermarket companies, and the hold voice is him,
Is that right?
Oh, yeah.
That's beautiful. That is beautiful.
Everybody. I mean, everybody knows Dave McClelland. And he is just the greatest guy to work with, not just because of his tremendous talent, but when I use the word professional, what I mean is basically him. And what Dave McClelland does is, on the shooting days when we were going to be shooting the stand-ups for Hot Rod Magazine TV, say it's a Tuesday and we got a location and a time and everything else, Dave was there. He was there early. He was ready to rock. If there was any script notes, he knew them. If by chance there was a better thing to say, he would suggest it, but he wouldn't push it. He would ask. He knew the subject material top to bottom. He could deliver flawlessly. He could deliver on time. Get it done. Be pleasant to work with. Be accommodating. Not be a pain in the ass. And do it perfect every time. And that's a tremendous yardstick. That's a goal.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, the guy's the Michael Jordan of doing what this is. He just... Jeez. You don't have to worry about Dave McClelland. It's going to happen.
Right.
So working with him all those years ago was really, for me, a privilege to be in the same room with a guy like that and actually work with him. It was later learned that was a treat, because there are people that are not to that level.
Ooh.
And they are harder to work with. And I'm not naming any names or saying anybody in particular, but you know how it is. In any job, there are people of different skill levels and people that have different motivations. And when you have the pleasure to work with the top person, everybody else is not the top.
Right. Only one top person.
Right. So I've learned from him to try to recreate some of those characteristics. Be there, be present, give it everything you got. Don't be a pain in the ass. Be flexible. If you have a suggestion, offer a suggestion, but don't force things. Don't demand things.
Right.
And let's get through this, and let's get it done, and let's get it done well.
Nice.
So when we were out for lunch, I had thanked him again for just being how he is and making my life easy and making our show great. And he was appreciative of that, but he also kind of gave me his blessing on doing this kind of stuff for SEMA and whatnot. He said a lot of very kind things.
Oh, nice.
Which was just really unbelievable. Along the lines of not just blowing sunshine, but echoing the fact that, like you said, I have a production background, a radio background, television background, both sides of the camera. So I know what these people are going through who are trying to put this show on from every aspect, the lighting guys, the sound guys, whatever. And I know my place. I know I'm not here I'm not some diva that wants everything changed or whatever. Let's all work together to put the show on, and whatever I can do, I'll do. And he recognized, he pointed out that is a legitimate thing that I have to offer. So he said they would be smart if, we work together more in the future. I don't know if it's going to happen. I hope so. It would be cool.
I hope so too.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, another small piece of trivia regarding Dave McClelland that some people may or may not know is that he, in fact, announced your wedding.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
That was amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Him and Louise came to town and emceed our wedding. And it was great because there are those who are not racing fans in my family who had no idea who this guy was. And as he's standing there in the reception hall announcing the bridal party coming in, like, where did you get this guy?
He's awesome.
Yeah, right. He's unbelievable. And those who know him, of course, were just happy to be in the room, and have a personal, performance, if you will,
for sure.
But he's been just such a great guy. And whenever for me anyway, and many people, if they have questions or they need an honest answer about, life itself, because Dave has not just been an announcer, he's owned racetracks, he's owned businesses, he's been involved in every way. He's a racer, and he's always good for solid advice, and he's not afraid to tell you if you're doing something wrong.
That's what you need sometimes.
It's exactly what you need a lot of times. So, been just a tremendous privilege to be able to spend time with him and know him. So, and his wife is great, and Kelly, we're all friends. So it was. So first to be able to do that event on Friday, and then to follow it up with that kind of support and visit. I posted a picture of us on Facebook, and I said that it was good for the soul, because it really is. It was a great thing.
Good.
And,
nice.
and I hope everybody has an opportunity in whatever they do to know somebody at that level that they can connect with and get that kind of feedback, because it's rare.
Dig it. Yeah, for sure. It certainly is. Yeah, I remember growing up, watching NHRA, listening to Dave McClelland, and I always thought, he was the smoothest of smooth. He could in a top fuel race, he could give you a story in 5 seconds when those cars are going down the track.
Right. And it was right, and it was good.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. Well,
and if it was a pro stock, he got a couple chapters waiting for 8 seconds of going down the track.
I'll never forget the first day we shot together, and it was at the NHRA Museum in Pomona, California. And we had written script notes for Dave, and I don't remember the exact topics of the episodes, but his capacity was the on-camera host. He announced, what the upcoming segment was, and then we'd cut away and air the video and come back, and he would give us the coming up, as we call it, before the commercial break, and then welcome us back. And everything had to be timed out right. And we're looking at the script, and, this intro needed to be 30 seconds long or whatever. And we had a teleprompter, but we were having some issues with it. And this is, again, first day jitters with a new crew and new talent and new show. So he kind of pulled me aside and he said, would you be open to a suggestion? And I said, sure. And he said, how long does this need to be? And I said, 30 seconds. And he said, what's the segment coming up? And I said, it's a driving feature of this 32 Ford owned by, this guy and whatever. Okay. All right. Well, why don't we roll? All right. So make sure the lights are on, sounds, everything going. All right. countdown to action. The camera was going to move on a dolly, so usually you count down from 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. On 3, the dolly's supposed to move, and on 1, Dave goes. So it's roll camera speeding. All right, let's go. In 5, 4, 3, camera starts moving. 2, 1, go. Hello, everybody. Dave McClelland coming to you from the NHRM Museum in Pomona, California, on the very first episode of Hot Rod Magazine TV. And today, we're going to take a look at a 32 Ford owned by Dave Gazinia of Pacoima, California. It's got a flathead. It's traditional. It's covered in flames, and you're not going to want to miss it.
Whoa.
And we look at the stopwatch, and it's 30 seconds exactly,
Oh, my God. Oh, brother.
And I look over at him, and he goes, how's that, son? And I knew right then, I'm like, you can just take the paperwork and throw it out the window, kids, because the show is on, and we got nothing to worry about. So as we were walking, it was great. And as we were walking around the museum, getting set up to different locations to shoot different stand-ups, the NHR Museum had a practice tree, quarter-mile dragster tree. Right. And it was set to the pro setting. And on an amateur setting, it goes, the yellow lights light up, yellow, 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 green, then red. On a pro setting, all 4 yellows light at the same time. It goes bam, and then green. And it's like a 400,000th of a second to go from yellow to green. So in addition to having this tree, they've got this game you can play with hand controllers. They call it a practice tree. So Dave's walking around, and he says, he picks up one of the controllers, and he looks at me, and he says, you want to give it a go? And I said, sure, why not?
I don't know, Dave.
Yeah, right. So, somebody hits the start button, and all the yellows light. He goes, bam, and he cuts a quadruple zero light. Perfect light. And he puts the controller down, and he goes, well, that was fun.
That's awesome. That is the best.
Like, oh my God, just in the presence of somebody from somewhere else,
Oh, jeez.
Because he's been a drag racer his whole life, and
oh, is that right?
Oh yeah. He had a Fiat Topolino bodied big block Chevy altered wheelbase car, and lots of stuff. So he later admitted that, he might have gotten a little lucky there too.
Jeez.
But it was too cool. So,
well, that was fun.
It was great.
Oh my gosh. So, my face would have been beat red. I'd have thrown it down and walked off.
But that's a funny thing is, it wasn't like, ha ha, I beat you. It was, he was providing context to who we were working with here.
I see.
And for me, it was a giant stress release. It's like, this guy, I got nothing to worry about. He's going to make all of us look good.
He's the real deal.
So honestly, then the focus became to the crew, and I'm going to use Michael Jordan as an analogy once again. Jordan was known as kind of a challenging player to play with because he was so demanding of the other players. Mm-hmm. It wasn't just all Michael Jordan all the time. Everybody had to rise to a level. Right. And that's how I felt working with Dave, because we were all like, we got to step it up. I mean, we got the guy here. So no jerking around, no wasting time. Let's get him in, get him out, keep him happy, and do it well. So
put out a good show.
Yeah, it was. Looking back, it was really an amazing experience to be able to do that.
Oh, I bet.
Yeah.
So, for sure. Holy cow.
Yeah, right. And so it was really great to go back to Southern Cal, where Kelly and I lived for a number of years, and reconnect with a lot of people that we know at SEMA and Dave, and then to take some vacation time. And after the event, the next day we woke up and had just an awesome experience as tourists at the Petersen Automotive Museum.
Right.
Yeah.
The Vault Tour.
Yeah, and the Vault Tour. So my experience with the Petersen, it's on Wilshire Boulevard, and it's 2 blocks away from Petersen Publishing, what used to be anyway, at 6420 Wilshire. And when I first started working at Petersen Publishing, the museum had been open for a couple of years. And I actually had to park there as you know, if you're a lowly guy on the totem pole and you wanted a place to park, you park 2 blocks away at the museum.
All right.
For a time period. So I was there every day. You know, I would park in that parking garage and go up the ramp every day. I had a 69 Riviera, and that's where I parked. And then they had this van shuttle thing going back and forth, which always seemed to be late, so I was walking back and forth. And then because at that point it was Petersen Publishing and Petersen Museum, there was still kind of a connection there. So we would have our sales meetings and events and stuff at the museum because we could, you know, it was just kind of a nice deal.
Right. Yeah.
And getting back to shooting Hot Rod TV, I remember getting my first kind of tour experience of the Petersen Museum with Gray Baskerville, which was also surreal because they had a bunch of hot rods that were I guess now owned by Bruce Meyer, and you may have seen Bruce Meyer's name come up. Bruce, he's a Rodeo Drive real estate and retail guy. He's got lots of financial resources and owns a lot of really great cars, and a lot of them are on display there. So we were shooting an episode of Hot Rod TV with Gray Baskerville, and he was giving us the lowdown on a lot of these cars that were on display, which was wonderful. It was a very cool experience. And eventually the Petersen separated from Petersen Publishing, and Petersen Publishing changed hands and blah, blah, blah. So I didn't really get a chance to do much there any longer. But a couple of years ago, they went through basically $100 million renovation, and you've seen the pictures undoubtedly of the red stainless ribbon design that's encapsulating the building. Yeah. It's interesting. It's about the most controversial architectural project in LA. So it's a total love it or hate it thing. A lot of people say, what does that have to do with cars? And other people say, well, you can't not look at it, you know.
That's a good point.
But it turns out that one of my good friends that I used to work with, again at the magazines, has become a tour guide of the Petersen Museum and also the Vault Tour. And the Vault Tour is really a stroke of genius on their part, because the upper levels are museum-type displays with cars scattered around and lighting and artifacts and signs and posters. But somebody had the sense to say, you know, the basement's jammed with cars, and they're not really on display, but we bet people will pay to go see them. So
I would.
Heck yeah. And it is totally worth it. So Chris does tours all over the museum, but we got a chance to have our friend Chris Vopat take us through the vault. And I've known Chris, again, he and I worked together. He was an ad sales guy for some of the off-road magazines when I first started at Hot Rod. And he was going through some personal turmoil at the time, a divorce and all kinds of stuff. So we spent a lot of time together. I mean, we're good friends. Yeah. And when I moved away from Southern Cal, I don't get a chance to see him very often. But Chris was always one of these guys who had encyclopedic knowledge of stuff, but he was always out of context.
Oh, no.
So, you know, we'd be out after work hanging out with a bunch of guys and you know, having a drink or something and talking about, you know, the NHRA race, and Chris would be like, hey, did I ever tell you what the 12 stands for in the DeLorean DMC? You know,
tell me that.
And we'd be like, yeah, that's great. You know, nobody cares. You know, because it was always just kind of this left field stuff. Well, now that's what the Vault Tour is. So
nice.
Chris takes you, and there's other tour guides do the same thing, but my only experience with that so far has been with him, and he did an impeccable job of going from car to car and just laying out a story off the cuff. I know he's done this many, many times, but framing things in a way that is so entertaining and so educational. And now you got the car right in front of you, so you can see this stuff, and you don't need context, because as soon as that story's done, you go to the next car, you know.
And, you know what that reminds me of? That reminds me of a Kevin Oeste at the McCacken show. On any car that we walk by, oh, this car, yada, yada, yada. I'm like, holy jeez. I mean, right like that.
Well, you believe that?
Well, you make it believable.
Well, so, okay, I could see that. You know, there was maybe some parallels there, and you didn't necessarily know that I happened to know the backstory on some of those cars. So I'm sharing it with you, and it just appears like this floodgate of knowledge. And that's what Chris is, because Chris has done the homework, done the research, but when you get there, you know, you only have either a 75-minute tour or a 2-hour tour, and he's going to jam that with stuff.
Cool.
And it just comes pouring out, and I learned so much. And it was funny because I thought, man, you know, how does somebody get to that point of knowing all this stuff? And it's funny that if I am lucky enough to share some stories where it appears that I know that kind of stuff, I'm not saying I do, but that experience was pretty cool. And what Chris was able to do is tell stories in a context of cars that I don't care about, but all of a sudden I really liked. So French cars from the 50s, right? Ooh. Citroens and...
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, right. And normally I don't care. But when he pointed out that after World War II, all the European car manufacturers, the cars changed radically. And I never really paid attention to them, but why did they change radically? Well, because the United States won the war, that's where the money was, so now they got to make cars that fit the American market. So all the European cars grew, they got chrome trim, they became bigger engines, as opposed to these tiny little things that went through the byways of, you know, Paris and Munich and all the rest. I never made that connection, so I was like, hey, right on, you know. Yeah. And like Citroen, again, to use that as an example, the crest, the logo of Citroen, even to this day, is kind of this upside-down V thing. I never knew what that was. Well, Citroen had a patent on a beveled gear system, and that logo is the graphic representation of that gear.
Huh.
So,
well, all right, Citroen.
Right. And he told us stories about Porsche and Delahaye and Bugatti and DeLorean.
Keep rubbing it in, buddy.
Yeah, but also Pantera and you know, mostly some of the European stuff, but Rolls-Royce and things. And then we got to a section of course, the Petersen Museum has this kind of stuff, these one-off cars that were owned by celebrities, or there's a Pantera that, you know, was owned by Elvis, but there's a row of limousines. So there's the Nixon presidential limousine, there's an FDR car, there's Saddam Hussein's Mercedes Pullman is sitting there. Wow. And it's verified. And Chris knows the story about how it ended up in the basement of the Petersen, you know, and it's so it was great. Chinese limousine, I forgot what it's called. A Russian Gaz Chaika limousine sitting there, all foreign dignitary, you know, stuff on. And the Petersen is on a quest to acquire these historically significant cars and preserve them. And they move them in and out of their displays upstairs, but the vault tour, they're just a smattering. It's all over the place, you know. And of course, there's some Hollywood stuff. There's movie cars, which I don't really care. But at the end of the day, the tour that he provided was good enough and fulfilling enough to me that I was not even upset that Cadzilla was sitting around the corner and I didn't get close to it.
Ooh. Oh, that stings.
Well, it doesn't, because I've seen Cadzilla in person many times. But this would have been the first time to be that close, because it was parked right in this aisle of hot rods and customs that I think if we would have done the 2-hour tour, maybe we would have walked through there. And we've talked about Cadzilla before. To me, it's the pinnacle custom ever built.
Right.
coincidentally, right now, Craig Naff, who's the main metal guy who did all the work on Cadzilla, has been releasing build pictures on Facebook.
Really?
I don't know if you're friends with Craig Naff, but you got to look him up.
Craig Naff.
Yes, and it's pictures of the day they bought the 49 Caddy sedanette, and then they started cutting on it, and they did the full size rendering, and then here's evolution pictures of the tail fin and the whole thing. Here's Billy Gibbons trying it on and all that stuff.
Nice.
So, and I've met Craig in the past too, but it was a weird thing as we're doing this tour, and I peeked around, and Kelly's with me, and I look back, and there's Cadzilla just sitting there, just bam, here it is. And I look at Kelly, and I go, there it is. And she looks over, and she sees it, and it's hard for me at that point to not shed a tear. I'm just like,
oh, wow.
There it is.
It's like seeing an old friend.
Well, yes, and again, kind of coming off this experience with connecting with SEMA and McClelland and my friend Chris and the cars at the museum, it was overwhelming. It really was.
Yeah, right on.
And I kept hoping, let's go look at it. But Chris did such a great job of navigating the waters of the tour that by the end it was like, I know where it is, and I'll be back.
Yeah, for sure.
and hopefully I'll get a chance to get close to it again. But anybody can do it, and Petersen, sen.org is the website. And you go there to go take the tour. And I recommend it wholeheartedly. All the tour guides are great. Of course, I'm partial to my buddy. And it was really neat to see him in that capacity because he's really found his thing.
That's good.
By day, he works for Race Pack. He's still in the industry and does cool stuff with cars.
Yeah.
But I mean, this was like, it was neat. It was really cool. So.
Yeah, I was lucky enough. I got to, by happenstance, happen to meet Chris Vopat on the Power Tour, the last Power Tour I tagged along with my buddy Robert. We happened to go up to Race Pack because Robert's been looking for gauges for his Galaxy forever, trying to figure something out. And we were talking a little bit, and I think he noticed my V8 TV hat. And we started talking, and he's like, "Oh, well, yeah, I know these guys." I'm like, "Oh, yeah, I know Kevin." And I mentioned that we did the podcast together. He's like, "Oh, really?" He's like, "Hey, tell him Vopat says hi," and all that. Yeah. I'm like, "All right, I will."
So that was
pretty interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, he's a good dude, and
he's a good dude.
At some point, you and I have been talking about getting our technology figured out to be able to have remote guests. He's top of the list. We definitely have to have this on. Because not only does he have, his encyclopedic knowledge, but there's some very funny, great stories of stupid stuff that we have done in the past that need to be told.
All right, I can't wait.
Yeah, right. No, that's good that you met him. I forgot all about that.
Yeah. Cool guy.
Totally. So yeah, there was the SEMA thing, the museum. Got a chance to chill out for a few days and ride a bicycle to the bar and do nothing and goof around.
That's nice.
It was a big week. It went very well.
Good. I hope you get to do that more often.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it sounds like, right now you have the right people in place that will let you be able to get away for a few days here and there without having to call in constantly and worry about what's happening in the shop. So,
well, right. Yeah. And again, we're fortunate enough to have super talented people, and I also encourage them to be able to get out and do stuff and get away, because as we came back, of course, Kelly and I were both kind of freaking out that we had missed a whole bunch of stuff, but they took care of it. Our crew's wonderful, so it was it was cool.
That is cool. Right on, man. Good. You need to definitely be able to take a little vacay and decompress a little more often than every 14 years.
Yeah, right. I've definitely decompressed here and there in 14 years, but
right. Yeah.
You can come out in the garage and listen to some music and crack open a cans of decompression. That happens.
Right. Right on.
But it was also neat because I met up with some TV guys that I work with or have worked with. One of our he's more than a cameraman. He's one of the his name is Evan, and he actually directs kind of Muscle Car of the Week when we go out to shoot that. He's LA based, but we bring him to that location. And we had breakfast one day and lunch a second day, so I saw him twice on that week. And we shared a bunch of ideas along with another television producer who lives a parallel universe to us, but primarily in the motorcycle world. He does a lot of two-wheel enthusiast programming, a guy named Steve Mann. And he came out to lunch with us, and we bounced a bunch of ideas about the future of media and television and car shows and enthusiast programming and where it's all going and how to make sense of all this, because things are just evolving like crazy, and it's hard to know to read what's going to come next. And there's another show idea that we've had for a little while that might involve the Brothers Collection cars a little bit.
Okay.
But also, I think the goal is to find something that's universally appealing or necessary, which is hard to do in a niche like car stuff.
Right.
But what we've identified is that tickling the next generation to play with cars is becoming challenging.
Oh, yeah.
Right? So...
Yeah, I agree, yeah.
And our friend Steve, well, Evan is also a motorcycle rider, but Evan and Steve have said the bike world is really hurting.
Really?
Because young people just they're not riding motorcycles. They don't care. Huh. And we see it on the car side where, today the biggest feature of an entry-level new car is its ability to send text messages and play MP3s. And it's nothing about the car. It's about, is it environmentally friendly? Is it cheap? And is it technology on wheels? Right.
Yeah.
So
does it get me from A to B?
Right. And, when you and I, were coming of age and we got our driver's license, the first thing we wanted to do was get in a car and get out of town.
Yeah.
And you've got daughters, they can communicate with their friends via phone or text, and they don't necessarily need that car to give them freedom.
That's true. Yeah.
So the automakers are kind of scrambling because they're trying to figure out how to embrace, how to make cars cool for future generations. And I experienced in LA more so than where I live at home is the presence of Lyft and Uber.
Yeah.
Now you don't, you could buy a new car for $25,000, or you can get 3,000 Uber rides.
Right. Yeah, I mean that's definitely a challenge. It almost, not to that degree, but it kind of echoes what was going on in the automotive world in the late 50s, where the baby boomers were coming of age, and they didn't want to. They wanted cars, but they didn't want their parents' cars because they were stodgy, big, oversized, not fast, not cool monstrosities. And the automakers had to come up with a way to really appeal to these kids. And they still need to appeal to these kids coming of age again.
Right.
So, it's a heck of a challenge.
That's a great point. And I think what the difference might be is in the 50s, the baby boomer kids wanted nothing to do with their parents, not only from a car standpoint, but they didn't want the music anymore. They didn't want the look.
Right.
They didn't want the food. It was a total rebellion.
Right.
Today, I don't think it's as much of a rebellion as it is. It's just not interesting to them because they can talk to people and get places without having to deal with it. And so what's the answer? There used to be a statistic that said 1 in 7 jobs in this country was tied to the automotive industry. 1 in 7.
Wow.
Yeah. And what I try to tell people is that the automotive industry is not just cars. It's marketing, it's sales,
Right.
it's technology, it's social aspects, it's design, it's it's a retail, it's distribution, it's everything you can do can be done in that industry. And I think we're seeing a situation where we've got a couple generations now that have been really brought up on the importance of the environment, which villainizes cars, and
Yes,
the reduction of importance of going places in a car, with the phones and everything else. So a kid born today is like 2 or 3 generations removed from the cool cars that you and I, think are cool. And yeah, Dodge makes a Hellcat right now, but that's out of reach for you and I.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah.
So it's hard to embrace a low-priced entry-level car as being cool because they're not sold as cool, they're not designed as cool, and the skill set to work on them is increasing every day. You have to be just as much of a programmer and an engineer as a wrench.
Right.
And we're 3 and 4 generations into a society of parents telling kids to go to college and be a manager instead of being a blue-collar person that works on stuff. So it's like disconnect after disconnect,
Right.
But my belief, and I think we've talked about this before in the show, is that, again, Chris Kirsting, the CEO of SEMA, said it best. For you and for me, there was a pivotal moment where we got a ride in something, and that sense of motion changed our life. And I don't care what the car is, if it's a truck, if it's a motorcycle or a station wagon or a Honda, it doesn't matter. Once you experience that, it's hard to let go.
Yeah, agreed. Totally agreed.
So we're working on developing some programming that encourages that. I can't let too much out, but it would be, maybe sharing a first-time experience in a particular car, but also on a scalable level that encourages locals, wherever you are, to do the same thing. And for years, there's been a movement called Take a Kid to a Car Show, and I'm sure you've seen that in the past.
Sure.
And I kind of am odds with that a little bit, because what happens when you take a kid to a car show? Well, you drag a kid through a hot sunny day and you say, "Don't touch that, get away from that," right? And and it's not. A lot of times, it's not fun for the kid. They can't identify with what they're looking at. They don't have any experience with it. They can't touch it. They're in trouble. And they're hot. So,
is it time for ice cream yet? Oh,
right. Yeah, you see it. So, and I run a car show that raises money for a youth organization, and we have that same problem. So, to me, the next step is not take a kid to a car show, but give a kid a ride.
Right on.
Let's get them in the car safely, and properly. But show them how much fun that is to, go around some cones or rock climb a hill or go through some mud or, whatever it's going to be, because that will perpetuate the industry and cars as we know it. So that kind of came out of this visit as well.
Good. That's great. Yeah, I know. I mean, young kids, it's less and less, but it's nice to know that it's not completely dead where young kids are getting into these older cars. I mean, every so often you see a Facebook post of a dad who's 15, 16-year-old kid has his first car and I want a Trans Am, or I want an older Trans Am, and maybe his dad got it for him and they worked on it together and they formed that bond working on this car, and now this kid is hooked for life being a gearhead, and I love seeing that. It's less than I used to, but it's still going on, which is fantastic.
Right. That is always great to see, and I think that pushes a little bit different of an angle of the family connection that can happen. Of course, you got to have a family for that to happen. But also the satisfaction you get from working on the cars and creating or fixing or whatever. And that's a skill set that's unfortunately going away
Right. Yeah, that's tough.
Right? Because all of our
That's tough.
appliances are throwaway. People don't fix anything anymore.
Yeah.
And the good thing, though, there's two things that are very powerful to me. One is that Hot Wheels are loved by everybody, right? Little kids, I don't care gender. Every little kid loves Hot Wheels. So they get a taste in the beginning. And the other thing is that Hollywood still thinks cool cars are cool. You watch a movie, every cool, crime fighter or even the bad guys, whatever, somebody's driving a muscle car. Somebody's driving a Ferrari. It's very few mundane cars. And you and I have discussed our personal evolution and connection to certain cars. Your dad had a GTO. My dad had a 62 Galaxy and actually owned the one that I have now. Mm-hmm. But imagine if you're born 5 years ago and your only connection to vehicles is a minivan and some other Econo box.
Yeah.
It's not even going to be on your radar,
Yeah,
It's just,
that's unfortunate.
It's not even a thing,
right?
But if we can get a way to share what it's like to at least, you and I know what it's like. You get in an old car, all of a sudden you're cool.
Yeah, and that's not easy to do.
Right? No, look at me, man. Same way. I ain't gonna lie to you. I drive that Galaxy around. It's bright red, top goes down, lots of shiny trim, and people are giving you thumbs up.
People look at you like, "Hey, cool guy."
Right. It's a great disguise. That don't happen in minivans. So, and I'll tell you what. Right. Being a young kid and getting a ride in a certain car and seeing people turn their head and go, "Oh man, look at that!" You're like, "Hey, I dig this." I didn't have to learn how to play it. I didn't have to practice it. Yeah. I just got in, and now I'm cool. And go. It's that easy. So to try and promote all that, and I'm not saying that the future needs more cars. Because in many ways, I don't think we do need more cars, especially, being in LA traffic or Chicago traffic.
Oh boy.
I'm all for if you can telecommute, go for it. But I think there's so much positive stuff to be gained from the experience of learning how to work on them or as a business to be able to make parts or sell cars or whatever. It's a very social thing. The industry is great people. And I'm all for it evolving, if it's going to be electric or if it's going to be autonomous or if it's going to be whatever. But I think it's still a very worthwhile place to spend a lifetime of hobby time or career time.
Agreed.
Totally. So, where are we on this episode anyway?
Oh, we're deep in it, man. We're deep in it.
No kidding. Oh, it's getting deep over here.
Yeah. Lovely. I think we're at the part of the show where we answer our trivia questions.
Yeah, maybe we need to play a loud noise to wake everybody up real fast.
Right.
All right. Trivia. So, okay, your question.
Yep.
What was the last year of a factory installed cassette?
It was what manufacturer was the last one to offer a cassette player in their car? And Kevin said it was Chevrolet. See the USA in your Chevrolet. Unfortunately, you wouldn't be playing a cassette tape in that Chevrolet because Ford was the last one to offer a cassette in the 2011 Crown Victoria.
All right. Okay, good. So I'm wrong. I'm fine with that. But my logic was sound, wasn't it?
Your logic was sound. Yeah.
Crown Victoria, again, a more senior market vehicle.
Exactly. Yeah, it was an option.
Huh. Nice. Where the heck did you find that?
I don't know. it's somewhere out in the cyber sphere, I guess. I don't know.
Right on. All right. Well, so I lose. Your turn.
So I lose.
The question, what did the 12 mean in the DMC 12 model number of the DeLorean Fine Motor Car? And you said that it was the 12th iteration of the design, if you will.
Yeah. God damn
which
it.
unfortunately was incorrect, my friend.
Ew, really? I'm shocked to hear that, because I was so sure.
How about that?
Man.
The correct answer is that although the original DeLorean DMC-12 stickered at about $25,000, their target was to make a $12,000 car.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. That had to be tough.
You know where I learned that? At the Petersen Museum from my buddy Chris.
Damn you, Vopat! Damn you to hell!
So if we have him on as a guest, you can, pick a bone.
Oh, he's going to hear about it.
Right on. Because they have one of the, interestingly enough, again, he had an ability to make me care about a car that normally I'm not super enthusiastic about. But in the Vault Tour, you will encounter a gold-plated DeLorean.
Really?
And it turns out that it was a promotional vehicle done by American Express, home of the gold car. And they were going to make 100 of these things and give them away or sell them as some kind of thing. And there's 3 of them that are known to exist today. And the one that's in the Pete was owned by some bank manager in Texas, and he had it on display in the lobby for a million years, and finally it ended up over there. So it doesn't have any miles on it. If I'm not mistaken, he said it's never been started.
No way.
Yeah, but it's a gold plated stainless
like
steel
real
DeLorean.
gold plating, or was it gold leaf, or like real gold plating?
You could still see the brushed stainless texture through it. So I'm guessing it was some kind of gold plating, not leaf, but a real fine plating process.
Jeez, that had to be pricey. Holy shnikes!
It was interesting,
Yeah.
So that was
right
cool.
on. So $12,000. I don't know how they were going to come up with that price point.
Well, they certainly didn't. Because it was more than double that. But
that's pretty aggressive.
Well, the DeLorean company was funded largely by the British government and by the likes of some celebrities. Johnny Carson put a bunch of money into DeLorean.
Is that right?
Yeah. So I thought, maybe, and you can ask Chris when you go, but maybe John DeLorean thought that the subsidies would be enough to bring the price down.
To offset the price. I gotcha.
And then, unfortunately, the whole thing went sideways. And
it did, didn't it?
The rest is, history. Maybe you could make a time machine out of one and go back and learn about it.
I heard someone did that already.
But not to necessarily learn about DeLoreans.
No, not at all. I'll just bring my almanac with me.
Right. All right. Well, this was fun. This was great.
This was totally fun. Yeah, we've been off the air for a little bit, it seems.
Yes, and a special shout out to, of course, my lovely wife Kelly, who's now caught up on all of our episodes.
Is she? So all right, Kelly.
Yeah. Gold star. So she was like, "When are you guys going to do another one?" So.
Oh, right on. Good. It warms my heart to know that she's listened to every episode and still wants more.
That's what I said, because
that's amazing. She's an amazing woman.
Yeah, without a doubt. And she'll be, working on her laptop, and I'll hear us, and I'll walk by and go, "Oh man, those guys are on." But yeah,
turn the channel.
Still wants more. So.
Well, good deal. Right on.
All right. And thanks to everybody for tuning into V8 Radio. We appreciate it. And you can please subscribe to this on iTunes, and then you'll get pestered when a new issue or new episode comes out. Of course, you can listen on Stitcher, the TuneIn Radio app, Google Play, and then directly off our website at v8radio.com. And the Facebook page as well. You can pose questions and all that kind of stuff. And that's about all I got, man. So I appreciate the time.
Likewise. Thank you.
And try and keep the shiny side up, and we'll see you next time on V8 Radio.